I had this parent friend who has inspired this episode of Time 414. I say parent friend because we met because our kids were in the same grade. So we became friends because we were parents. And she had one parent that lived close by. Her husband's parents were not close by. So one parent out of, all the possible grandparents for her kids to interact with, there was one. So in my friend's household, when they went to grandparents and when they visited farther away relatives, she told me they would have a talk with the kids in the car about, this is how we act around these grandparents. These are the things we say or don't say around these family members. And it was this whole set of rules. And to a point, I get it. I mean, there are family members that I say less around. But here's my concern with that. They are teaching their kids to give a different version of themselves to different people. And that, at its core, I don't agree with. There have been family members with my kids that I have asked them to maybe watch what they say around, but I explain why. Like, you are free to say whatever you want to whomever you want, as long as it's respectful and polite and all the basic decency human things, right? But if you say these things around this person, this will probably happen. So it's a difference of teaching discretion, like making your own judgment, watching people, collecting wisdom, versus censorship. And it's a fine line, but think about your kids as they grow up, or maybe you grew up that way. And then think about yourself as you've grown. If you believe that you have to present different versions of yourself, then when you become an adult and you're dealing with your parents now, what version of you are you going to give them? Because when you're a child or a teenager in their car, and you're going to visit their parents and they are telling you, or you as a parent are telling your child, that I feel around my parent I can only say or act this certain way, then when your child grows up, they're going to think when they're around you, they're going to be clicking into place what way they should behave. I want my child, no matter what their age, to always feel like they can 100% be themselves around me. That is a goal. I want them to come in. I mean, I don't care when I'm 80. I want them to walk into my house, not knocking, just walk into my house, grab a snack, and come sit on the couch and talk with me. That's my goal. That will make me so happy. I don't want them to think, okay, I have to go visit mom. I don't want to be a have to. I hope at any age they come because they want to. I want it to be, I want to visit mom, and I can't wait to tell her blah, 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 blah. Oh my gosh, that will make me so happy. That is a life goal. Okay, so it doesn't just happen. I mean, it starts at an early age when they watch us. Now, I have different parents, and the ones where I go and maybe I don't say as much, there's been a discussion and the kids understand why. And it's not I'm going and I'm being a different person. I mean, if the conversation leads to it, I will say what I think. I have no problem with that. And I have explained to the kids that the times when I'm quieter, I'm trying to keep the peace, but there is a boundary to it. So the intent is important, why you're doing this, because it's not censorship. It is being polite. These are family members, so I am being polite, but I am not being me, because there is a boundary to it. On this very thin line we're navigating of censoring yourself for someone else versus being respectful and maybe holding back a little to keep the peace. There is a limit. There is a boundary. A healthy boundary, because I will not walk into any room for anyone and be somebody completely different than myself with no bounds and be a doormat or not be myself. That's not okay. And that is the message that I know my friend was sending to her kids, because it was a straight shot. It was, when we're here, we act this way. When we're over here, we act this way, or we say these things, or we don't say these things. It wasn't, we're going to be polite. We're going to not say as much and let them talk because we know how they like to talk. But if they cross this line, I will stand up. I will do it politely and I will do it firmly. But there is a line, there is a healthy boundary, and that is something so important to teach. Because at several points in my kids' life, as they grow, especially once they're out of this house, they are growing and they are experiencing things that I don't know. And I am treating them like the last version of them that I knew, and I'm wrong. They might be polite and be quiet and let me talk for a minute because they're respectful and they're my kids and they're letting me talk. But if I cross a line, I'd like them to let me know, respectfully, politely. I want them to have a boundary with me, because if they don't have a healthy boundary with me, I won't know when to stop. I'll just ramble. I mean, I try to pay attention. I'm a rambler. I'm an interrupter. It's horrible. I try not to, but I'm an interrupter. And I don't want to miss it. I don't want to miss it with them. And especially as I see them less, as they leave this house and they come in, I'm going to miss stuff. And I want them to have a healthy boundary so they can talk to me and say, well, actually, Mom, that's not the case anymore. Or, you know, you're incorrect. Or this person and I made up and they're really trying, or whatever. I want it to be a discussion, because I'm going off of the last thing that I knew, and they might feel it's confrontational to correct me. I want to be corrected. And that's, as parents, if we're making this environment, if we're encouraging this behavior, we also have to be okay with being corrected, with being stopped, with being interrupted, with knowing we're going to get it wrong, especially as they grow and we see them less. We're going to get a lot more wrong. It's already my older kids, you know, even still living in this house, I don't see them as much. They are adults. And I get things a lot more wrong because their lives are moving so fast. And I just get these check-ins. And I always want them to be able to say the things to me. Because here's what happens if that doesn't happen. Think about anybody you've had a misunderstanding with and you don't feel heard. Then resentment starts to creep in, blame. I mean, you don't want to go talk to that person anymore because you don't feel like you're being heard. You don't feel like they understand, and then you start to feel like they don't care. And that, you know, with some people that might be the case, but with a lot of times it's not. They do care. They don't see what's going on that's wrong. So be aware of the example that you're setting when you go visit family members, your parents, anybody. And explain to your kids, if it's a situation with a whole bunch of history and you have tried and, you know, all of these things, and so when you go in, you are just quieter, or you don't visit as much, or whatever, explain that to your kids, but make sure you're doing it from a healthy place. There's a lot of family dynamics where there's so many unresolved feelings that you don't want to pass that on to your children. Because then as they grow, if they have unresolved feelings with you, they won't get resolved. It'll be, I'm only going to go see them at Christmas, or maybe not even, because I don't want to deal with it. If that's especially what you're hearing, but that's something natural to feel anyway. So if it's an unresolved thing and you've tried and you have a healthy boundary, so we're not going or we're not dealing with it, whatever, there's some of my family members I don't see. And I love them, and I can love them from afar, and I can love them even when I don't like them. And I explain that to my kids. I will always love them because they are a part of this family, but it is not healthy for us to communicate. I do wish them well. I hope things, you know, improve, and, you know, I can love them from here. Sometimes that's just safer for everybody. And they know the history. They know the chances. They know the times that things have been worked on and communicated about. So they've seen where I've made my healthy boundary. They know it wasn't arbitrary. And they know that it wasn't because I'm throwing a fit, or because, you know, something happened 20 years ago and we never got over it. I want to be an example of healthy relationships and healthy boundaries. So as they grow up and we get older, when we have problems, because we will have problems, we can still have a healthy relationship with healthy boundaries. That involves a lot of communication, and sometimes it involves healing relationships, or trying to, that you've left unresolved. And if you try that, let them see it. Maybe it's a family member that you've always just butted heads with, and you're going to try to keep the peace. Maybe you've learned some new communication tools, and you're going to talk to this family member and say, hey, this has been our past. I think it's because of this, and I'd like to work on us moving forward and get a friendship back, or get, it's something a little healthier back. And share that. First of all, do your research so you have the right steps, but then share that with your teenager. Be like, hey, I've been thinking about us and you growing older and family, and I've realized this person in my life I cut off because I was mad, because they hurt me deeply, and I never dealt with any of that. So I'm going to try, and I want to share the steps with you, so we can see, and you can give me your input. And there's a lot more resources out there now, especially with the internet, for our kids if they want to work on healing a relationship than we ever had 20 years ago. So if this is like a 20-year family grudge, oh my gosh, get your children's input. They might have something really valuable. And if not, they're at least along for the ride to see these healthy steps you're taking. And if things resolve, great. And if they don't, then to see the healthy boundaries that you put in place.